So, what happens when the law, the thing that's written in black and white, just slams right into the messy, gray reality of a human life? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore today through the story of one police officer whose entire world gets turned upside down by a single tragic night. Okay, so let's meet Officer Gulnaz. For her, justice was never some kind of philosophical debate. Nope, it was a procedure, a clear set of rules written in black ink. You follow the file, you enforce the law, and you absolutely never, ever let emotion cloud your judgment. What? What happens when a case lands on your desk that just refuses to fit into those neat little boxes? That's the question Officer Gulnaz is about to face, and believe me, it's going to challenge everything she thought she knew. All right, so let's set the scene. On the surface, this whole thing starts out as a completely straightforward case. Really, it's the kind of thing Gulnaz has probably handled 100 times before. The case file hits her desk, and I mean, it couldn't be any clearer. The crime? A hit and run. The result? Tragically, one man is dead. And the suspect? They've already got him. A government school teacher named Imran Ali. As far as the law is concerned, this thing is basically open and shut. Yeah, in Gulnaz's world, the path from here is a straight line. There are no detours, no gray areas. It's always the same 3 steps: arrest, trial, punishment. It's a machine, unemotional and procedural. But just when you think everything is all locked up and settled, that's when the human element shows up. And this simple case starts to unravel in a way that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. In this is the moment it all changes. It's such a simple question from the suspect, Imran. But really, it's a plea. He's asking to be seen not as just a name and a case file, but as a person with a story. And for whatever reason, Gulnaz decides to listen. And wow, what a story it is. Imran just lays it all out. A night of absolute panic. His little daughter collapses with a high fever. There's no ambulance available. Time is just slipping away. So, in a desperate race to the hospital, the unthinkable happens. A man steps out onto the dark road, and in that moment of shock and chaos, raw fear just takes over. Fear for his dying daughter, fear of everything, and he drives away. So here we are. You've got 2 totally different realities, existing in the exact same moment. On one hand, the law sees a crime, a hit and run, fleeing the scene, guilty. But on the other hand, humanity sees a story, a desperate father trying to save his child, a moment of overwhelming fear, and a man caught in an impossible, tragic dilemma. And the consequences of that one single moment on the road, they're just devastating. Because this one event has completely shattered 2 separate families. And here's the thing. There's a little bit of light in this story. Imran's desperate gamble? It worked. He got his daughter to the hospital just in time. She survived. A life was saved. But that relief is just immediately crushed by the other side of this tragedy. The man who was killed, he was the sole provider for his entire family. So for them, a life wasn't just lost, their whole future was wiped out on that dark road. And right when Gulnaz is wrestling with all of this, with this incredible moral weight, the system pushes back. Her senior officer's words are just a blunt reminder of the world she's always known. Don't complicate it. The case is clear. Law is law. And that brings us right back to the core question, doesn't it? And it's a question for all of us, really. When the cold, hard letter of the law is demanding one thing, but your own humanity is screaming for another, what is the right thing to do? Where does true justice actually lie? So, faced with this totally impossible choice, Gulnaz decides to do something different. She decides to forge a new path, one that looks beyond just enforcing the rules written in that file. This right here, this is the turning point. It's a huge shift in her perspective. She mentally takes off the uniform, she sets aside her training, and she rereads that file, not as an officer of the law, but just as a human being. So what does she do? Well, she does her duty. She signs the arrest papers, the law is upheld, but, and this is a huge but, she doesn't stop there. She submits her own detailed report, laying out every single circumstance of Imran's desperate night. She makes sure that the judge, the lawyers, that everyone involved hears the full story, not just the legally simple version. And in doing that, she did something pretty remarkable. She didn't bend the law, she didn't break it. Instead, she created space inside of it, space for context, for empathy, for humanity.
She let justice breathe. So what happened? What was the result of this incredibly brave, nuanced decision she made? Let's take a look at the final outcome, because the lesson here is pretty profound.
After months of waiting, the court finally reached its decision. And you know what? It's a decision that probably would not have been possible without the full, complicated story that Gulnaz insisted on telling. And the judgment was, well, it was balanced. It wasn't about picking a winner and a loser. Imran was found guilty, the law demanded accountability, but his sentence was reduced, and crucially, he was ordered to provide mandatory financial support for the victim's family. It was a judgment that punished, but it didn't just destroy. It actually tried to find justice for both sides. And this, right here, is the lesson. This is what Gulnaz learned and what we can all take away. True justice, it isn't about choosing sides. It's about having the courage to acknowledge the tragedy on both sides and then finding a way to carry the immense weight of both of those lives.
And we're going to end on this powerful thought. The law, it gives us a framework. It tells us what is legally right. But it's our conscience, our humanity, that guides us toward what is truly just. And that's where you find it. Real justice doesn't live in the black ink of a law book. It lives in that messy, complicated, and ultimately beautiful space between law and life.